Hello, this is Chris with Shift Security Left, and in this video, we'll be talking about managing deployments using Infrapipe. Before you get started, we're assuming that you've already set up Infrapipe in both your AWS account and in your GitLab account. Let's start with cloning your Infrapipe repo from your GitLab account to your local workstation. Next, let's check out a new branch on your local repository and push it to your GitLab remote repository. The branch that we're creating is a special branch used to build out and manage a logical environment. With this special branch, we are able to build the necessary supporting infrastructure for your application deployments. Once you have pushed this branch to your remote repository, Infrapipe is configured to automatically execute an infrastructure as code pipeline. If you navigate to the pipeline section of GitLab, you will see that the pipeline will automatically perform a Terraform plan. This automated task helps determine the likelihood of a successful setup of your infrastructure in your cloud provider. If the task completes successfully, it's usually marked in green. You can then be confident to continue to the next steps. Upon a successful Terraform plan, navigate to the Terraform Apply step. You can push the play button to initiate the apply. This essentially begins the infrastructure build-out in your cloud provider. In the most simplistic scenario, managing a deployment with Infrapipe will require you to first build at least one logical environment within your cloud provider. A logical environment is what you would normally associate with your SDLC software delivery lifecycle environment, such as dev, QA, or production. Once your first logical environment is set up, you'll be able to deploy one or many instances of your application within this logical environment. The Terraform apply that's executing on this infrastructure branch is creating a single development environment in your AWS account. This is the default as described in the instructions from the Shift Security Left example repo. Once the Terraform apply is successful, make sure you pause and don't execute the destroy Terraform step. We'll talk about this step a little bit later in the video, but for now, just leave it alone. Now that we've successfully defined our logical development environment, and we've deployed our infrastructure successfully, we're ready to deploy an application. The way we do this is by creating another branch, but this time it will be an application branch. Application branches have application pipelines, and the application pipeline will trigger an application deployment. Please note that naming convention is used to determine what is an application branch versus what is an infrastructure environment branch. Any branch that's labeled or begins with a TF is an infrastructure branch or an environment branch. Any branch that has any other name is considered an application branch. Now that we've created an application branch named Feature My App, we can go back to the pipeline section of GitLab to see the status of the deployment. Notice that the pipeline is very different from the infrastructure branch. There are several steps within an application pipeline that are required to ensure a secure and successful deployment. In this video, we're using the Node.js sample application. But please note that these steps may vary in their naming depending on which type of sample application you cloned. Regardless of the variation in naming of these steps, they generally serve a common purpose. The build phase is used to ready your application so that it's in an executable form. This could mean compiling software or downloading other packages and dependencies required for the application to run properly. The test step is used to identify any quality issues or security vulnerabilities in your code. The image build step is used to containerize your application into a Docker container. Finally, the deploy step is to actually deploy your application into your environment. And in this case, the application is being deployed into Amazon ECS. Let's go ahead and copy the URL at the end of a successful deployment. Note that you'll have to add a trailing slash to make sure that it's a complete URL. Your application on first deployment may need some startup time, so you need to be a little bit patient. It may require a minute or two, but your application will start and then your URL should respond successfully. Now that we've deployed the application successfully, let's go ahead and uninstall the application. The way we do this is, let's navigate to the pipeline section of GitLab again. And if you look at the application pipeline, the final step is to destroy the application. While we're waiting for the destroy process to continue, we can look into our AWS account and see the assets that were created. Mainly the Amazon Elastic Container Service and various other components like networking, such as VPC, security groups, and subnets. As the destroy process progresses, we should see these assets start to disappear. Now that the destroy is complete, we can refresh our Amazon console and we should see the Amazon Elastic Container Service cluster disappear, as well as the other assets. Great. Now that our application is uninstalled and destroyed, our next step is to uninstall and destroy the infrastructure setup. We will have to revisit the pipeline that ran in the infrastructure branch named tf-dev-setup. Here, we will use the Terraform destroy step that we mentioned earlier in the video. By running this step, all the infrastructure requirements needed to support our logical environment will be destroyed. It is important to note that in this example, our infrastructure is storing load balancer logs on an S3 bucket. We first need to empty that load balancer S3 bucket before we initiate this destroy operation. If you were too quick on the trigger, don't worry, you can always empty the S3 bucket and rerun the destroy operation again. It should rerun the second time around, provided that the S3 bucket is empty. Similar to the application destroy process, we can go to the Amazon console and monitor the progress of the infrastructure destroy process. Notice once the Terraform destroy process is complete, you'll notice that the Amazon console is updated with those assets being destroyed and no longer being displayed. At this point, your application is uninstalled as well as your infrastructure. And the only thing remaining in your AWS account is the Infrapipe initial setup. This can be uninstalled as well by going back to the Amazon CloudFormation service and deleting the stack. However, before you do this, you must empty the Terraform state bucket that was created by the CloudFormation. Once that bucket is empty, you can delete the CloudFormation stack. The CloudFormation stack now is deleted and Infrapipe is completely removed from your Amazon account. This concludes the video, and thank you so much for your time. If you have any feedback or questions, please feel free to reach out by adding any comments to this video or reaching out to us via email or our Slack channel. Thank you.